Okay, so good day to each and everyone. At ngayon lang ulit ako nakabalik for almost a month due to yun nga, nag-prepare ako ng mga presentations at this moment. But anyway, let us proceed to the lesson for grade 9. It is start of the first quarter, which is the respiratory system. And then alam naman natin sa oras ng upload ko na ito, alam natin na medyo malapit na rin ng pasukan. No? Kasi yun, since malapit ng pasukan and then sakto pwede nyong ma-open ito, no, para sa paunan yung kaalaman regarding sa topic nyo sa science, which is yung respiratory system. Okay, so ano yung respiratory system? But before nga pala yun, alam naman natin na kapag tayo ay nag-i-inhale and then nag-i-exhale, so ano nga ba ibig sabihin ng inhale and then exhale? Yung kapag sinabi nating inhale, breathe in, yan. Huminga tayo na malalim, yan. And then exhale, doon natin magkakaroon ng exhalation and then magkakaroon tayo ng pagre-release ng carbon dioxide. And then tandaan natin kapag nag-i-inhale tayo, kailangan natin mag-intake ng oxygen and then kapag tayo nag-exhale, kailangan natin mag-release at hindi naman sa kailangan talaga. Kumbaga, nire-release natin yung carbon dioxide. No? And then, how do you feel? No? Kapag ginagawa natin to, and then what do you think is happening? So literally nakikita niyo naman dun sa image natin, and then somehow in terms of human respiratory system, it is the organ system responsible for breathing gas conditioning, no, and respiration, which are important for the human survival. Then pag sinabi nating respiration, no, ito yung process na ginagawa for the for functioning, no, our human respiratory system. And then usually it is the process where exchange of gases, particularly oxygen and carbon dioxide, occurs. Okay, so meron lang tayo mga ilan sa mga definition of terms na kailangan natin tandaan, no? Dahil ito yung isa sa mga vital information na kailangan natin matutunan for the respiratory system. And then in terms of pulmonary ventilation, it is the movement of air in, then hindi pala our yun, no? So ito na nga yung movement of air in and out of the lungs, more commonly known as breathing, no? So kumbaga, ba't pa natin sasabihin na pulmonary ventilation, pwede naman breathing, no? Pero it's just almost the same din naman. And then in terms of external respiration, it's the gas exchange between the lungs and the blood. Then yung transport, may nangyayaring transportation pagdating sa respiratory system, no? So yung transportation na nagaganap dito, ito yung carrying of oxygen and carbon dioxide, no? Sa loob ng nagfa-function na respiratory system. And then what about internal respiration? Ito yung gas exchange between the blood and then the cell. Yun po yun. So meron tayong dalawang klaseng respiratory tract, which are the upper respiratory tract and then lower respiratory tract. So mapunta muna tayo sa pinakauna, syempre, yung upper respiratory tract. So it is the passageway of air in the upper respiratory tract, includes the nose, nasal cavity, pharynx, and then larynx. And then ayan, nakikita niyo naman siya. So ilan sa mga parts ng upper respiratory tract is yung nose, no? Literally, alam naman natin ang meaning ng nose. It is consists of nostrils, which is used for breathing and then smelling. And then usually, ito yung ginagamit natin for our sense of smelling, diba? And then in terms of nostrils, it's the opening of the nose for entry and exit of the air. Nakikita nyo naman, so tatry natin i-zoom. Ayan. Nakikita naman natin yung nostrils dun sa boundary ng ating nose, di ba? So next po, ano yung function ng nose and then nasal cavity? So it provides opening or airway, no, for respiration through the nostrils, no. It moistens and warms air due to the mucus secretion of the cell lining dun sa mismong nasal cavity. Then isa pa, it filters inhaled air using the cilia, no? And then it contains olfactory receptors for smelling, kaya na-activate natin yung sense of smelling natin. So in terms of sinuses, no, are group of 4 paired spaces that surrounds the nasal cavity. So ito yung sila yung nakakonekta dun sa hollow cavities dun sa may bandang skull, no? Alam naman natin yung ibig sabihin ng skull. And then ito yung 4 paired spaces, no? Frontal sinus, ethmoid sinus, maxillary sinus, and then sphenoid sinus. So ayan po sila. So next po, they function mainly in producing mucus that moistens the inside of the nose, and then this mucus layer protects the nose from air pollutants, microorganisms, dust, and dirt. No? So, ayan po sila. So, we must identify the 4 types of sinuses, diba? So, yung maxillary sinuses, it is found under the eyes, no? Nakikita naman natin, frontal sinuses, it is located above the eyes, no? Above, no? And then, ethmoid sinuses, makikita natin sa between the eyes, no? And then, yung sphenoid sinuses, it is located behind the eyes, no? Nakikita naman natin kung saan sila makikita, diba? So, ulitin ko po, yung frontal above the eyes, and then yung ethmoid nandito siya between the eyes. Ayan, nakita naman natin yung between boundary ng eyes and then yung sinus na ito. And then maxillary sinus under the eyes, nasa ilalim siya, and then behind the eyes ito yung sphenoid. Ayan, nakita naman natin. Yan. So, mas malinaw siya nakikita. Mas malinaw natin siya nakikita. And then, yung pharynx, it is the funnel-shaped passageway that connects nasal cavity to the larynx and esophagus. And then, it is the common pathway for food and air. No? Then, meron tayong 3 parts of pharynx. At alam ko, natakil na natin ito sa digestive system, pero dadaanan natin siya ulit, which is the nasopharynx. I think lang naman, no? Kung naaalala ko pa. Nasopharynx, oropharynx, and then laryngopharynx. Ayan siya. Nakita natin ang boundary ng 3 parte ng pharynx. Ayan. May palatandaan or legend naman. So, kapag sinabi natin nasopharynx, ito yung upper part ng pharynx that is connected dun sa nasal cavity. From the word itself, nasopharynx, di ba? Then, next, oropharynx, it is the middle part of the pharynx, no? Located between the palate, no, and border line of the epiglottis. And then yung laryngopharynx, ito yung distal part, no, ng pharynx, no. Kapag sinabi nating distal, teka lang, laryngopharynx, nasa baba siya, yan. And then pag sinabi nating larynx, no, it is also known as the voice box, connects the pharynx to the trachea and made up of cartilage. Base naman sa nakikita ninyo yung image, diba? And then somehow, the thyroid cartilage is a shield-shaped cartilage that forms the laryngeal prominence. Yung laryngeal prominence na yun, ito yung tinatawag nating Adam's apple, no? Para sa mga males. As well as sa females din naman, meron din naman sila. Diba? And then, the larynx serve as passageway of air and helps in voice or sound production. And then, the epiglottis is a flexible flap at the superior end of the larynx which moves when swallowing and speaking. It closes off the trachea when swallowing to prevent food or liquid from entering the airway. So, mapunta na tayo sa lower respiratory tract, no? So, it includes the major passages and structures such as the trachea or the windpipe, lungs, bronchi, bronchioles, and then alveoli. Mapunta muna tayo sa trachea, no? Or yung windpipe natin. It is a hollow tube that connects the larynx to the bronchi. It is less than 1 inch in diameter and 4 inch long, no? So it has a thin membranous wall, and it is composed of 16 to 20 cartilage rings that are stuck along its length. Then yung trachea plays a vital role as passive air passageway, no? And then yung bronchial tree, no, it consists of the branching system of bronchi and then bronchioles that conduct air from the windpipe into the lung. And then it starts at the end of the trachea, which splits off into the right and left primary bronchi. Nakita naman natin yung primary, secondary, tertiary bronchi, no? Nakita naman natin. Yan. Yan. Nakita natin siya na mas malinaw. Now, each primary bronchi is then segregated off as it descends into the lungs, forming the secondary and tertiary bronchi. So kapag sinabi natin secondary bronchi or mas tinatawag natin lobar bronchi, no? And then yung tertiary, ito yung segmental bronchi, no? From there, the network continues to branch off into smaller tubes known as bronchioles, no? So pag sinabi nating lungs, they are pair of large spongy organs where exchange of gases occurs, no? So kapag sinabi nating right lung, it consists of 3 lobes, no? Meron tayong superior, middle, and then inferior lobes, no? Nakikita naman natin. And then sa left lung, meron lang tayong 2 lobe, which are the superior and then inferior, no? So surrounding the lungs are the bold layered sacs called the pleura, no? And then, ito siya, yan, para mas makita ninyo. So, 5 seconds, no? Bago tayo mag-move sa kabilang slide. Para makita nyo lang po. Okay. So, next slide. So, sa lungs, meron tayong 2 layer, which are the outer layer at inner layer. So, kapag sinabi nating outer layer, ito yung parietal pleura. No, nakikita natin yung balat niya, ayan. And then yung inner layer, ito yung visceral pleura. So yung pleural cavity is the space between the visceral and then parietal pleura, no? So the pleural membrane serves as the protective cushion of the lungs, no? So it is also keep the 2 lungs airtight and away from each other. Yan, nakikita niyo naman yung boundary ng pleural membrane in that part. And then yung alveoli, it is the microscopic air sacs which is located at the end of each bronchioles where gas exchange happens, no? Then there may be several alveoli coming from one duct forming a little clump that resembles a cluster of grapes, no? Makita natin. So mapunta tayo sa physiology of breathing, no? Yan. So breathing is the movement of air in and out of the respiratory tract, which is divided dun sa 2 stage, which is the inspiration and then expiration. Kapag sinabi nating inspiration, hindi yung inspiration na naisip natin. Yung inspiration na tinutukoy dito, ito po yung inhalation, no? And then yung expiration, ito yung exhalation, no? Ano yung pinagkaiba ng inspiration at expiration? Yung inspiration, ito yung movement of air into the lungs, no? And then yung expiration, ito yung movement of air out of the lungs. Yan. So, next, the diaphragm and then the intercostal muscles are muscles, no? That aid in breathing, no? And then yung diaphragm, ito yung large dome-shaped muscle, no? Below the thoracic cavity. No, makikita natin yan later on. And then yung intercostal muscles, they're located between the ribs. So, ito po siya. Yan. Yan. Ayan. So, and yung another part pa nung kanilang physiological structure, lalo na nakita natin yung intercostal muscles. So during inspiration, diaphragm and then intercostal muscles contract, pulling up the rib cage. Air pressure in the lungs decreases and then air moves in from the external environment into the lungs, no? So during expiration, diaphragm and then intercostal muscles relax, pulling down the rib cage, and then the air pressure in the lungs increases. And then air moves out from the lungs into the external environment. So ayan po. So in terms of external and internal respiration, no? So when you inhale, oxygen-rich air flows from the upper respiratory tract down to the lower respiratory tract until it reaches the lungs. So inside the lungs, oxygen diffuses into the inner wall of the alveoli, and then from the cells of the air sacs, it diffuses to the capillaries and into the blood, no? So this movement of oxygen from the alveoli of the lungs to the blood is referred as external respiration. So in the red blood cells, oxygen combines with the protein hemoglobin forming oxyhemoglobin. Then this type of movement of oxygen from the blood to the cell is known as internal respiration. So ito na po yung process niya. So meron akong sinabing kaninang oxyhemoglobins. So yung oxyhemoglobin na yun, so since it is an unstable compound, no, and easily breaks down and releases oxygen in the tissue fluid surrounding the cells, and then it goes into the cell. No? So in conclusion, no, the transport of oxygen from the external environment to the cells is opposite to the movement of carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide diffuses out from the cell to the tissue fluid, then to the blood, and to the alveoli. Ganun po yung process niya. No? So from the air sacs, it leaves the body through the lower respiratory tract and then flows into the upper respiratory tract until it reaches the external environment. Kasi nakapag-exhale na tayo dun, di ba? So, tapos na po ba? Hindi pa po, no? So, pag-usapan natin yung common respiratory diseases as well as kung paano natin pangangalagaan ang ating respiratory system. So, dito muna tayo sa common respiratory diseases. So, in terms of, before nga pala yun, no? Dito nga pala, those respiratory diseases are common health problems dito sa bansa natin. Marami mga Pinoy na nagsasuffer sa ganitong klaseng respiratory condition na maaaring makaapekto dun sa normal functioning ng ating respiratory system. So, unang-una yung asthma. So, this is a chronic respiratory condition caused by a consistent inflammation of the respiratory tract and constrictions of airways, which results to difficulty in breathing. No? So, ayan po yung process kung paano nangyayari yung asthma. Iba po, nakikita nyo naman po dyan sa baba ng image. No? Yan, nagkakaroon ng constrictions ng airways. Kaya tayo nahihirapang huminga. So, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, no? Or COPD, ito yung general term na ginagamit for several respiratory disorders that causes breathlessness or the inability to exhale normally. No, so in fact, this respiratory disease is one of the leading cause of death in the Philippines. Yung COPD can develop over the course of several years without any signs. This disorder is caused by smoking and environmental factors, just like yung pollution and then genetic predisposition. No, so next po. Bronchitis, no, it is categorized into chronic and acute bronchitis, no. So yung chronic bronchitis is a form of COPD that is characterized by a chronic cough, no. So on the other hand, yung acute bronchitis is a viral infection, no. So there's an inflammation of the mucous membranes of the lungs in the bronchial passage for both kinds of bronchitis. This condition also causes swelling that blocks the airways in the lungs. So, ayan po yung bronchitis. Yan po. And then next, yung emphysema, it is another serious form of COPD caused by smoking. So, the smoke from the cigarette damaged the alveoli of the lungs to the extent that these air sacs are severely dehydrated and can no longer repair themselves and have a difficulty in exhaling air from their lungs. Then yung emphysema, ito yung progressive disease and does not have permanent cure. At kung napapansin nyo sa mga kahan ng sigarilyo, makikita nyo rin naman yung kung ano yung ibig sabihin ng emphysema na dahil lang dun sa visual image na pinakita dun sa kahan na yun na sigarilyo. And then nakikita ninyo yung differences between the chronic bronchitis and then yung emphysema. Kung ano yung comparison nila dun sa healthy part versus the yun nga sa may damage part. Then I think this is the last two, yung lung cancer. It has an ability to develop in any part of the lungs which can be difficult to detect. No, mutations dun sa DNA in the lungs cause production of irregular cells that multiply and leads to uncontrolled growth of abnormal cells or tumor. No, so symptoms may take years to appear, which includes chronic coughing, changes in voice, harsh breathing sounds, and coughing up blood, and many more. No, maraming sintomas yan. So, ayan po. So, lastly, yung pneumonia. So, it is an infection of the alveoli of the lungs which can be caused by bacteria, viruses, or fungi that can be life-threatening. Symptoms includes fever, cough, shortness of breathing, and then yung chills. No? So, ayan, i-zoom natin. Kaya lang. Ayan. Ayan po siya. So, next po, paano natin papapangalagaan ng ating respiratory system? So, respiratory system plays an important role in maintaining the normal functioning of the body, no? At katulad ng sinabi ko last time sa digestive system yata yun na wala namang superior sa lahat ng organ systems, no? Lahat naman yan importante. At wala nagdo-dominate sa kanila kasi lahat naman yan importante, and then somehow importante yung kanilang pag-function in terms of kung paano tayo nabubuhay ngayon. Kaya nababalanse yung internal and then external body natin, that because of this kind of functioning all of our organ systems, no? And then somehow it is so important to be taken care of to avoid respiratory diseases. So, there are many other ways on how to keep the respiratory system healthy and efficient. So, unang-una, breathe clean, fresh air, no? So, avoid polluted places, no? Cover your nose with a clean handkerchief or wear protective mask when you go outside. Lalo na sa panahon natin ngayon, no? Kasi bawal lumabas ng hindi ka naman naka-face mask, no? No, so maintain cleanliness at home, minimize the use of aerosols, air fresheners, or pesticides, no, kasi nakakasama siya sa ating respiratory part. Avoid smoking or passive smoking, no. So yun nga, habang bata pa kayo, alam niyo na, wag na kayo mag-yosi, no. So stay away from the infectious people with contagious respiratory diseases, no. Alam niyo naman kung bakit, di ba? So, do regular exercise such as walking, jogging, and simple breathing exercise, no? Or kung trip mo mag-meditate, just go with it. So, take healthy balanced diet and some multivitamins, and have enough rest and sleep. And then lastly, have a regular checkup or seek medical help when respiratory symptoms occur. So yun lamang po yung paano natin papapangalagaan ng ating respiratory system. And then dito na po nagtatapos yung lesson ko. So abang po kayo sa next lesson. Hopefully na naunawaan niyo naman po yung lesson ko within this time, no? So next topic natin is all about the circulatory system. So yun lamang po, at dito ko na po tatapusin yung ating video. So abang kayo sa next upload natin. So that's all for today. Goodbye. Like, comment, and subscribe. Okay.